are.
All right, welcome everybody to Venice Beach Central, a new show coming out of Venice Beach, California, where we showcase basically our friends, the best and the brightest that we consider from the Talking Stick and other areas that we've known folks. And I got right here Eric J. Charles, and I got Roger Houston, and I got Mike Coulter, and I'm Nikki Black. We're known as VeniceVille when we all play together. We all do our individual thing. Eric J. Charles is a featured artist in the things that we're doing, and welcome. So Eric, how are you doing today, man?
Doing all right.
All right.
No worse for wear.
All right, I love your studio here, man. New Ocean Studios, right?
Yeah, it's a good time. Very blessed.
And where does the New Oceans come from? Where'd you get that title?
Well, because I'm from Pennsylvania, and we have the Atlantic Ocean out here, so the Pacific is the New Ocean.
All right. I didn't know that, and you're right here. What a beautiful view you have here from New Ocean Studios. It was beautiful Pacific right here in Redondo Beach.
Yeah.
All right, man, and we're going to feature some of your songs. We're going to feature some of VeniceVille songs. We're going to feature some of Roger's poetry during this endeavor here. And we got Mike Coulter here, yes, doing the wonderful drumming. And we met you at the Talking Stick as well, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to call us the Talking Stick Collective, because we all played at the Talking Stick, and most people you'll be seeing in this show early on is just people that the Talking Stick, a place in Venice. It lasted about 4 or 5 years, brought us so many people together. So we're gonna call ourselves the Talking Stick Collective in the beginning, and then we'll branch out a little later. But we have so many artists we want to bring on this show, including this gentleman here that I met. We played at the Venice Beach Fellowship Band, and I'm just honored to play with you, man. You're a fantastic drummer. And what got you into drumming in the beginning?
For me, it started with hearing John Bonham playing on Carousel Ambra, a lesser known tune for some. It's off the Into the Outdoor album, which was the last one before he passed away early. But then others like Neil Peart came along, Steve Smith Journey, and other drummers that just kept me interested in learning new things. Hearing Phil Collins play these weird offbeat things, I first didn't think they worked, and it was like, once I opened my mind, it's like I heard where he was going. He had a different approach, a new approach, and now that's one of the things I love about music is hearing some of these new approaches people have in odd times and other things like that. Just getting to learn the instrument and master it, not out of an arrogant thing of being better than anybody else, but to master it, to be able to play hopefully different styles like the VeniceVille and Eric Charles music and anything else that I get a chance to play, and not to be so stuck on one type of music, but to be
that's open. Why I can't speak for the rest of the guys. I think I can, but that's why we like playing with you, because you are so versatile, and what this whole thing is you know,
the connection,
bringing differences together. And Roger, there, you're a funky bass player, man. Tell me how that came about.
Well, back in the 60s, when I was going to church, it came to my attention that there were lots of string-based amp instruments in the back of the choir stall. I used to pass it on my way up to sing in the choir, and I always had a tendency towards bass, but there was a bass, maybe 4 or 5 different basses. There was one that I really liked, that I just really loved it.
Just took to it, huh?
It had catgut strings, and I had little hands, and I was a guitarist, but I had access to the bass. And with this particular bass, playing it was really a warm experience.
Great. And out about the funky part, where did that come from?
Just being exposed to James Brown.
Stuff like that.
Yes,
Ohio, where you're from.
I'm from Cincinnati, so it's kind of a crossroads.
Okay, I see.
So there's lots of things happening. You got Appalachia, the South. You got north towards Detroit, Chicago. Cincinnati's like a crossroads.
Okay, man. Sounds good. And Eric, where are you from originally?
I am from Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
And is that near Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or just it's?
It is near Philadelphia. It is the land of the Amish, the original Amish settlement
Okay, man.
in the New World.
Awesome, man. It's still there all these generations later. Huh?
Yes, that's right.
All right. And how did that ever influence your music?
Well,
Or your
it was a very
songwriting?
peaceful area to be. It was a very beautiful country. I mean, it had 4 seasons, unlike California. But in the 70s, during my formidable years as an artist, the world was a really interesting place to be. And there was a lot of love, a lot of acceptance, a lot of art in music.
Yeah. And that got you, that's what inspired you to kind of dive into it.
Yeah, well, my older sister, I guess you could say, she was kind of a hippie in a way, and had a lot of really cool records. So I just really started listening to all the cool music from the era.
Yeah.
You know, everything from Grateful Dead to Frank Zappa to the New Riders of the Purple Sage to McLaughlin, Birds of Fire.
Yeah. Good. Well,
I started getting into the Moody Blues, Zeppelin. Yes, many bands that occurred during that era in that genre. They call it progressive rock now. In the day, it was just called rock. They added progressive later.
Yeah, because it was an emerging kind of new genre where people were adding a little more classical or a little more.
Well, there was obviously a tremendously diverse set of music occurring during that era, but I was particularly influenced by the technical music.
Well, no doubt, like you mentioned, John McLaughlin. Most people would consider that maybe fusion. So it's kind of like a
weather
something
report
that was going on at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you had to be a great musician. You know.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, you had a lot to be influenced by.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention all those albums, right? Yeah. I'm sure we can all say that about how we're influenced by listening to records and albums and just getting lost in that. What were some of the records you listened to, Mike?
Well, with this, I'm glad you asked right then, because I wanted to say just after Eric said, it was interesting that he said his sister, because for me it was my sister that, well, a lot of times then it was mostly 45s, but then later albums came, but she would go and get a bunch of 45s and later albums, and she'd bring them to her brother and play it, and that's got me started on music. And we went on camping trips together, and when you got a family of 5, you can imagine the amount of arguments that could happen over music. When my sister picked out the music, everybody was happy, and I learned a lot of stuff. She kind of helped shape, and she was the first one who played me the Led Zeppelin Into the Outdoor. That changed everything when Carousel Umber came on.
All right, and that's funny you should mention that.
So that was
because he was a natural DJ. It sounds like, because you have to be able to read the crowd.
Yeah, because everybody else, listen to this one. Well, when she put something on, everyone was just happy to hear. She just knew what everybody wanted.
Yeah, man, that's a gift, and that's before they considered a DJ a musician or an artist, right? And what about you, Roger? You were a little DJ at one time, weren't you? Growing up at some time, listening to records. What record popped out at you as a record that really influenced you?
Led Zeppelin 2.
That's funny. All three of you guys talk about Led Zeppelin.
What about you, Nicky?
No, it wasn't Led Zeppelin, to tell you the truth. I couldn't stand Led Zeppelin at that time, right? But as I grew older, my musical taste got different. I grew up around a lot of black folks in Venice, so Led Zeppelin wasn't someone that people listened to. Not even Jimi Hendrix they didn't listen to. Just Sly and the Family Stone, maybe. But, you know, later on I grew to appreciate it. But hey, everybody loves Stairway to Heaven, though, right? I mean, everybody loves that song. And later on I learned to really appreciate them. And I always liked John Bonham, though. Let's get that straight. Funkiest Englishman or white boy drummer ever. Right?
Yeah.
But I was listening more like Stevie Wonder and Earth, Wind and Fire. You know, it's this electronic jazz, like, you know, I like to get into in the VeniceVille project, stuff like that, you know. But yeah, I heard it all around me.
We all had Stevie Wonder records too.
Yeah, but I heard it everywhere, you know, at the basketball courts in Venice, and you just heard it. Everybody was playing records. So that's how I got into that.
Was an amazing era, honestly.
I probably would have gotten into Led Zeppelin #2 like Roger did. Only I found out later the Carousel, apart from Stairway to Heaven playing on the radio, the Into the Outdoor was my first real introduction to Led Zeppelin, appearing in albums instead of just hearing a song here and there.
And what about Eric? Your songs? Who would you consider yourself? Anybody influenced by?
Well, it's at a certain point in time, I just became a songwriter. I thought that was a really interesting thing to do. And I honestly can say I wasn't copying any artist, but just allowing all the influences that occurred to be part of me, but then trying to develop my own creative center and just bringing into existence things that didn't exist before and just following what energies that I was channeling.
And that shows in your music, man, because it really doesn't sound like anybody else, and that's what I like about you. You're one of a kind, you know, and that's what, you know, that's kind of what I'm looking for on this show, is unique, one of a kind, you know, gems of artists. And Roger, speaking of one of a kind, your poetry. I mean, you're a multifaceted artist that's in many mediums. But your poetry, where did that come from? I know where your music came from, but your poetry, because I think...
University of Cincinnati.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What, just an English teacher in particular, or a poem?
Just having exposure to the Romantics. That really got me.
And what about the 60s? Growing up in the 60s, did you spoke of the 60s earlier, any of the Beat generation poets influence you at all?
Well, some don't need to be discussed, but I do know that I was touched by the whole presence of the beatniks. I wasn't a beatnik. You know, I was too young.
Yeah.
But I was definitely influenced by them.
Okay, good. Most definitely.
But I was also influenced by Ike and Tina Turner.
And all that kind of good stuff. Me too.
Yeah.
I think that's where our connection was.
I hung out with my Uncle Danny, and he's only about 3 years my senior, and he's not educated to speak, but he knows what he knows. And he would take me with him when he went to visit the Sanders kids who lived upstairs from a place where you could buy liquor and alcohol and stuff. We'd go up to Craig Sanders' place, and there'd be a little record player, and Danny always had records from Ike and Tina, James Brown. We listened to all this stuff, and it was a big deal to take your shoes off and dance in your stocking feet on a floor of
Like the sock hops and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, no carpet. It was a bare wood floor, and
Right.
and I just remember that was an exciting time for me.
All right. Well, I think we've touched on a lot of subject, you guys. I think they know who we are, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in here, everybody. Again, this is Venice Beach Central, coming to you from New Ocean Studios in Redondo Beach, representing the best and the brightest of Greater Venice, as we call it. We got Eric J. Charles over here, Michael Coulter, Roger Houston, and I'm Nikki Black. Thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for the future artists that we bring in. Thank you. Peace.